elderly are being encouraged to come back. All those who had been kept away from worship have been asked to come back. We put in the measures that we wear our masks. We are encouraging not only the elderly, but all to try and at least receive the vaccination. We are encouraging vaccination, but we will not be requiring them to show proof of their vaccination. At the level of the risk, with the use of our masks that we're encouraging in our places of worship, we feel we are protecting all who will be with us in places of worship. Yes? Anyone else? Any other question?
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your patience. We always appreciate that you have shown up in good numbers, and you've been very, very patient with us. May God bless you all as well as you minister us from that side of the camera. God bless you.
Thank you.
The press statement that has been released by the Interfaith Council that was set up by the Ministry of Health to deal with matters of how worship would go on in churches, in mosques, in temples, and this was over the coronavirus pandemic. And on Friday, the Cabinet Secretary for Health, the Senator Mutahi Kagwe, released revised measures on the curbing of, the coronavirus protocols that had been put in place about masks in public areas. But the message that has come through from Archbishop Anthony Muheria, who is the chair of the Interfaith Council, is that those who go to places of worship, they will be required to have masks, as is required that if you're indoors, then you have your mask on. Outdoors, it's there. Full capacity worship is allowed, plus also funerals, the number of people allowed, it's back to normalcy. And still the talk about how you handle some of these things in public, but health measures, especially hygiene measures, will be maintained. At that event, she's going to give us the full brief in our bulletins that are coming later in the day. Well, welcome to Sports Check once again. Daniel Wahome is my name, and we've got our sign language interpreter at the bottom right of your screen is Lensa Odingo, and we shall be having 3 conversations today. Table Tennis Kenya, they are selecting a team for the Commonwealth Games, but the process is not the usual one. They have changed how they do it. They pick a pool of 10 men and 10 women, and every month you've got to play, and there is promotion and relegation from that pool. That's a tough one for most of the players. No one is assured of a slot. The competition will grow, so we shall be hearing about two of Kenya's top players, Sejal Takar and Brian Mutua, plus the coach of the national team, Kennedy Otieno. And then we've got the World Indoor Championships this weekend in Belgrade, Serbia. Remember, KBC Channel 1 will be broadcasting that event from Friday through Sunday. And due to restrictions about travel and how much contact they can make, we shall be joining Team Kenya via Zoom from their base, and we shall be hearing from Janet Jekosgei, the Eldoret Express. She's the coach of the national team, young Naomi Korir, Ferdinando Manyala, and the leader of the delegation, Barnaba Kitilit, will tell us about the playbook for Belgrade, Serbia, and he will actually explain why we opted to do it via Zoom. But today is the 14th of March, and it is Commonwealth Day. And the Commonwealth Games in Kenya, they are seen by the National Olympic Committee of Kenya, which incorporates the Commonwealth Games Federation of Kenya. And to talk about, their activities for this year, the commissions that have been set up, and also some regulations about how Team Kenya is going to be picked for the Commonwealth Games that run from the 25th of July to the 8th of August, also to be broadcast on KBC Channel 1. We've got the Secretary General of the National Olympic Committee of Kenya, Francis Mutuku. Francis, good morning.
Good morning.
It's a pleasure to have you, and happy Commonwealth Day.
Thank you, and happy Commonwealth Day to you too.
Thank you very much. And just an outlook at the general celebrations for the Commonwealth Games. I know we are about 132 days out to the Games. What's the celebration plan and the activities for NOC for today?
Thank you, and thank you for again inviting me to share with all Kenyans what we are doing. Before I go to what we'll be discussing, I want to congratulate KBC Channel 1 for acquiring the rights to free-to-air for the Commonwealth. That way, at least we know Kenyans will be watching our team from Birmingham, and we look forward to working very closely with KBC to ensure that people know about the team. Commonwealth Day, yes, is today. For us, we are different milestones in terms of celebrating. So in terms of any expectations on celebrating today, none at all. We are looking at different milestones like we did for the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. Our first celebration in terms of letting the country know will be on 100 days. Right now, we are about 132 days to the Commonwealth. We have about 30 to 32 days to get ourselves completely ready so that when we start celebrating, everyone is on the start line. However, in terms of the ongoing activities, a lot of the work right now, just like you've just mentioned around table tennis, a lot of the work right now is at the federation level, where they are going through getting their teams, preparing, and hopefully in a few weeks' time, giving us the final team.
Well, the National Olympic Committee of Kenya set up commissions, and this is in line with the NOC plans
How do I get to the commission? Our commissions are formed same values and objectives of what we wanted to do. The reason why we wanted to be clear on what we wanted to do, because there were very many expectations from a National Olympic Committee. Do we focus on the youngsters? Do we focus on the seniors? Is it the coaches, the referees? So we had to sit and agree which are the priority areas. Now, the strategy and performance will be looking at that particular strategy which we came up with, review it, because as you know, with strategies, you have to keep seeing it. Obviously, when we were doing it at that time, certain aspects like the corona pandemic had not come in. Right now, it is coming. What does it mean to our overall strategy? Do we need to review it? The Olympics, we did not expect them to be postponed. Right now, instead of having a full 4-year period to the next Olympics, we have 3 years. It means then we have to change a lot of what we need to do. But most importantly, after they review that, it is the monitoring. We need a team which looks at overall activities of the National Olympic Committee and keep checking whether they are in line with what we want to aspire towards, and check also whether there are some gaps where we are not addressing them, whether the commissions we formed are contributing towards that overall strategy. So a lot will be expected from that commission, and we believe the people who have been brought in are equal to that task.
So there is 2 things out from what you have said that I want to pick out. First is the vision and the values of the National Olympic Committee of Kenya. You could tell us about that first.
One of the things, we looked at the National Olympic Committee and the past history, probably 50 years. And we found that, especially in terms of our athletes in athletics, they are world standard. They have gone to be the best. And therefore, we say that as an organization, we want to be the best National Olympic Committee in the world. And for those who are within the Olympic family, there are very many aspects within the National Olympic Committee. Then we looked at what are the values which bring us together. We are sports people, and a lot of people share very many values. We picked the top 3 which are shared across the family of Olympic, which is friendship, excellence, and respect. These are some of the values which we want to embrace. We want them to be part and parcel of our culture across all our athletes, across all our administrators, and everybody else. With that common vision, which is to be the best, not second, not third, to be the best. And then we looked at what are the best standards across every aspect of sport that we encounter, and we all aspire and aim to be in that area.
All right, the second one that I want to take is how you tweak your strategy, given that this Olympiad is not going to be the usual 4-year cycle, but 3 years, 2021 to 2024. What are the things that have had to change in your approach to preparing Kenya for the 2024 Paris Olympics?
First is to collectively, as a family, when I talk of family, we are talking about affiliates, is to ensure that we have constant consultation with our affiliates in terms of the activities. Yeah, like I think since January we've had about 3 meetings, and we're having another one tomorrow. That shows how often we need to have. The first thing is for everybody to appreciate that we do not have time. And even the period becomes less when you look at our national calendar as a nation, that this year we're going to have elections, which means, practically speaking, we are between now and July, because August we allow for the electoral process to go through, which we are all involved in, August and September. It means now we even have fewer months to be able to prepare. Secondly is to start looking at every engagement, not as an event, but as a process. We are saying now, we are looking at the 2024 Paralympics, but we are saying everything that we do now builds onto that. And therefore, when we look at, for example, the Commonwealth, we are saying there are some federations which can opt that the teams they are going to put forward will be teams for the future.
Yes.
And therefore, in terms of the objectives, in terms of the goals for their participation in the Commonwealth, it is to start gaining experience, to start growing, because that the team, hopefully the federation will be keeping to participate next year in the African Games and ultimately in the Paris 2024 Olympics. The other federations, for different strategic reasons, who might want to have an even longer term view, where
one of the things that's there, and I want to bring the commissions that are there, elite athlete development, which means there is an elite athlete performance commission that is there, and you also have got the athlete representatives and the people who are around that. We've got Humphrey Kayange and Glenn Obiri there. Tell us how these two work to ensure that the people who represent the country are at the top of their game.
I'll start with the easier one for us to understand, which is just the Athletes Commission. Athletes Commission is purely to look at the welfare of athletes. And in the coming days, we'll be unveiling quite a number of programs in terms of how we want to engage. The principal guide is that we want an athlete, before they get to the pitch, they are a good person. They need to be trained on financial aspects, they need to be trained on mental aspects, they need to be trained on social aspects across board. We want everyone we interact with, directly the National Olympic Committee and indirectly through our affiliates. These are people who we've helped to be better people, because they'll be ready for the market, either as sports people or beyond the time they'll be in sports when they retire and take up different roles. The other one, and probably more important for us, is the Elite Performance Commission, that is looking at the teams which come to the National Olympic Committee. As you know, the foundations are laid at the federation level, the development is at federation level. Then what the federations do is give us the ready material to go for competitions. These are people we are saying right now, if you look at internationally, the difference between number 1, number 2 could be microseconds. What does that mean? It means that we have to start looking at the way we approach our sports slightly different than we've done in the past. We need to start having data in terms of these athletes. For example, if they come to camp, maybe in April, like we are hoping that would be the case, are there people who can be able to test them through different parameters according to their technical specific requirements, and then we see whether the 2 months of camp makes any difference. Does it help improve them? Are there statistics we can be able to get of different individuals within a team perspective, which can help the coaches to be able to decide? So by the time they announce the final squad, they're able to demonstrate to every athlete that these are our targets, this is what we are achieving, but we are not able to meet them. So that an athlete can be able to appreciate that they need to work on certain areas. But more importantly is to start helping us towards a sports science center. A sports science center has a lot of different elements which needs to be incorporated. We need to work with a lot of sports scientists to be able to assist our technical coaches, analyze, support, and provide programs which can help athletes become better. We just want to improve our performance. That is the goal of the elite performance.
And put that together, the Olymp Africa Center that is in Ruai, that the groundbreaking ceremony took place. We also have looking at a high performance center. Plus, and I want to bring in this, the Knock Institute Commission, which is ideally supposed to be the think tank, do all the research work and the hard work, and also working with the Kenya Sports, the Kenya Sports Academy. How's this ecosystem being set up so that there is a lot of knowledge sharing, especially around, athlete data?
I'll start with the Olymp Africa Center. Olymp Africa Center is our answer to where are the Kenyans who will participate in 2032 Brisbane Olympics. That is our answer. We are saying we have them. We're asking federations to give us the top. This will be something which will work very, very closely with federations to start developing the top. We'll be letting you know how soon we'll start, because we are starting as soon as April in terms of the youth camps, which we had started before the pandemic. We'll be saying now these are the people we want to train. The facilities which you want to put up at the Olymp Africa should be of international standard. So the first time any particular player goes to a sports ground, they start training at international level. They don't get overwhelmed when they go to international competition. That's the first time they really look at international standards infrastructure.
Playing volleyball indoor.
Exactly.
Playing football on proper grass.
Exactly. If we can be able to get our youngsters to enjoy these facilities and get used to that, it means as they improve, then they're able to use them. And we know also in terms of support resources, they are limited. By putting all the athletes in one place, we can be able to bring resources which would have been shared across probably 27 federations to one spot. So if a sports scientist, if it's a strength and conditioning person, they can come and impact the athletes directly at minimal cost. Obviously, this is just a start. We are hoping that in future, then the counties will be able to put up such facilities, which federations now can be able to spread through their branch network to be able to continue training. Because the whole idea is to widen the base as much as possible so that the pyramid can be very strong. Going back to the Knock Institute, it's all about education. It's about research, like you've said, and you've said it's about information. There are a lot of opportunities we believe our sports people can get. We have very many universities in the country. We want to see whether the Knock Institute can be able to work very, very closely with these universities to be able to give our athletes opportunities. We know a lot of them are giving scholarships for athletes, but we are wanting and we hope that we can be able to partner with them. So some of these great athletes who are representing Kenya, they do not just aspire to go out of the country. Sometimes that is good for them. What about the ones who do not make it? Can they be able to get an opportunity within the university system in the country to be able to participate, which means our leagues, our senior championships will be stronger because we have good athletes who are still within the country but are also learning. The second one is a lot of education systems we need to develop, we need to incorporate across board. You've seen we've done a lot of administrators courses. We've already started with one schedule and others will be following up this week. The whole idea is to train as sports administrators from the national level all the way to the sub-county level. It means then this particular commission has to be able to work with experts who can be able to train our athletes in different areas. Then we are also looking at, we get a lot of opportunities for people to pursue their masters, their postgraduate or even graduate studies. That's the commission which will be able to vet for us who among all the Kenyans who are interested is best suited and who should be given that opportunity. And even then, after they're given that opportunity, are they bringing back the knowledge back to the country so it can be shared and so that the rest of the country can be able to benefit from that one individual who has gotten that one opportunity.
Well, talking about scholarships, there's something known as the Olympic Solidarity Scholarship, and this goes to athletes who've got the potential. Sabrina Simara, who's the Snow Leopard, she's a part of that Brian tour, who's going to be here later, has benefited that through table tennis, and Mercy Joshua from badminton. Which commission will be picking up this, will be selecting who gets that Olympic Solidarity Scholarship?
That will be the elite. Elite because they are looking at the top performance. And for people to understand how athletes end up benefiting from that particular opportunity is that we have federations nominating their top athletes. When the nominations come to us, we send them to the International Olympic Committee. What the International Olympic Committee then does is to confirm with the international federations in terms of the best possible avenues for those particular applicants, either to get the scholarship or whether they have a chance. The whole idea is to avail opportunities to as many athletes across the world as possible, and that's why the Olympic Solidarity Program gives to every athlete across the world to be able to get an opportunity to participate in the Olympics. Last time, out of the ones who were within the program, one of them who was from swimming was able to make it to the Olympics. We are hoping this time round, and we'll be announcing the recipients probably in a month's time, we are hoping this time round the recipients will be able to make it for the Paris 2024 Olympics.
Well, also talking about that, let's talk about the Gender and Youth Commissions and the roles that they are going to play within the entire NOC setup.
In simple terms, is to break the bias of either side. I know a lot of people, when they hear of the gender, they think it's about the women. No, it's across the women and the men. We want to, as much as possible, to ensure that there is no bias to either gender. We also realize that there are some areas we need to do affirmative action. A lot of people have wondered why there are not too many sports administrators who are women, and some of them are historical reasons, some of them are cultural, and some of them could be different reasons. We are addressing the reasons why people are not able to come to sports. They're not able to take up administrators' course. They're not able to become referees or become coaches. And the Gender Commission will be advising the executive in terms of the areas which we need to engage, which we need to participate. As you realized over the weekend, we had an International Women's Day celebration by bringing our sports women together to celebrate. That simple action ensures that the sports women are able to start interacting with other sports people across the country. We also have the senior ones who have retired. They start connecting, they start talking, they start having conversations, they start mentoring them, so that we do not have anyone walking alone when we have so many other people who can be able to mentor them, who can be able to support them. We'll be rolling out a number of programs to be able to support by affirmative action the women to participate, but again, it's not at the cost of the men. It is simply to, as much as possible, to level the ground. We know there are rooms already men are in. We are just saying we want to open a door for women to be part of that process.
Well, the other one that I want to touch on is a medical commission. There is a lot of interest in medicine and matters to do with anti-doping. And from the work that has been done, I think, in the run-up to the Tokyo Olympics, I think the medical commission did help, the federations raised the flags about athletes' health, probably where athletes are not being open about what the playbook was. What's the way forward for this commission?
This again is an important commission, as you all realize, and I guess every person in the world has realized that everything almost became a medical issue. You go to any building and the person who is testing you, they're checking your temperature, something we had associated with only the medical people. This is more in sports. We are saying that not only do we want the medical commission to take interventive measures in terms of what needs to be done, reducing the number of injuries among our sports people simply because they do not have the good training program, enabling the sports people know that if they are taking particular medicine, they need to declare. But more importantly, for them to start also giving us information on the research they have done. And looking at the base year being 2020, when the medical commission and the team of medical started getting data of our sports people, we're hoping this can be able to be built all through. We believe that the medical commission will be able to perfect its work probably in another 10 or 15 years when they have built enough data around our Kenyan athletes. What works for them, what does not work for them, in what condition do they need to be, what are some of the areas they need to intervene in good time, what are the areas they need to check, what is causing common injuries, because they can be able to look at different sports and find that over the last 10 years there have been consistent injuries which they need to prevent. And therefore they have to come and suggest to the coaches what they feel they have come up with and what needs to be done. They'll also be very part and parcel of working together with the elite team in terms of the high performance center. When they come in, a lot of it will be medical based, and we are hoping that they can be able to partner with a lot of research foundations to be able to get a lot of research on the individual athletes, so that we do not go for competitions and hope that there'll be luck. It will be through a lot of information, through a lot of guidance in terms of what to expect in terms of our performance.
Well, and those are the commissions that have been set up by the National Olympic Committee of Kenya. Well, remember, we said 132 days to the Commonwealth Games, and Team Kenya already, there are teams that have qualified, and simply this is it. Rugby sevens men, an allocation of 13 athletes. Basketball 3x3 women, an allocation of 4 athletes. Basketball 3x3 also for the actually for the men and women, 8 in total, 4 from each gender. And hockey women have got 18 athletes allocated. Hockey women qualifying based on their rankings. But there is a criteria that's going to be used as to the number of athletes that Kenya can have. Beach volleyball, they're going for their qualifiers. Hockey women have qualified. We're looking at netball. Rugby sevens women, and table tennis will be here later. Weightlifting, para athletics, paracycling, para lawn bowls, para swimming, para table tennis, para triathlon, and wheelchair basketball. So this means qualification sport. You make it, you're in the team.
Yes, you make it, you're in the team. We have 3 levels of participating in the Commonwealth, and this is based a lot by our performance in 2018 Gold Coast. And therefore we got what we call direct slots. Direct slots, we got about 94 as a country. And those direct slots, then we look at which federations will be able to represent us.
That is what is referred to as open athlete allocation.
Yes, that's the open athlete allocation. So we get 94 spots, then we go across different slots. The second one is the federations which need to go through their qualification system, like the ones you've mentioned. They need to go out there, compete, either qualify directly, or if they do not qualify directly, then they get wildcards to be able to participate. The third one is on the parasports. Parasports also have to go through their qualification. So out of these 3 different ways of going to Birmingham, that's where we expect to get a team. But there are certain criteria and guidance we work together, and which we are working across with all the federations. The first one is, as a National Olympic Committee, we want all federations to participate. It means it's not irrespective of how their performance has been in the past. We just want inclusivity and everyone to participate. Mm-hmm. The second one is, we are looking forward to the best Kenyan in every sport to be able to qualify. It also means the end and the means become important. Mm-hmm. And in terms of the means, we've said that the criteria used for selection should at least go by 3 principles. The first thing is that it should be known by the stakeholders. That means if we are in any sport, it means then we should know how our team will be selected. So it should be known. The second thing, that there should be advance notice, that we do not release the information today and tomorrow that's when there will be the qualification. And the third one is that it should bring out the best. And the best can be relative, because again, federations being the experts in the individual sport can be able to guide us on how they want to bring the best. I'll give an example. For example, competitions where there is the weight categories. A federation can strategically decide they just want to focus on particular weight category for different reasons, as long as they believe and they agree that is the best way to go strategically. So out of the 10 different categories, if they have only 4 slots, then they can only tell us, we feel we have comparative advantage in these particular categories, and those are the categories we are going to include people for trials to be able to compete.
And that would be ideally wrestling, judo, and boxing.
Boxing and weightlifting also. Yes. Those now can be able to tell us, since we are not giving them all the categories, we are giving them a limited number. They'll come back and tell us, this is the reason we want to select. So with that guiding principle, we expect and we hope that we can get the best team, so that at the end, the people who represent us are the best, and those who are left, they are supporting those who have made it. Because if it's an open competition, it's an open system, it's understood and everybody is aware of, and they were given a chance to be part and parcel of it, then they can be able to support and cheer the ones who will go and represent us as a country.
So let's take a look at some aquatics. This is in swimming. About how many slots? I mean, when it comes to the Olympic Games, you normally operate with 2 slots unless you've got at some huge top-notch athletes. It's one of the universal sports at the universal entry sports at the Olympics. At the Commonwealth Games, how does that work?
It's a decision which we'll have to make as a country. Out of the 94, and the people who are already in the open slot system, now that's after we inform people of the principle of inclusivity. It means what is the minimum number for each sport, and some of them are strategic. For example, where we have doubles event, you find that it's not wise to send an individual. It's better to send 2 individuals so they can be able to participate with the singles category and the doubles category, or the mixed, depending on how it is. So that is what will guide us in terms of the minimum numbers. After we attain the minimum numbers, the next principle which will guide us is the performance. Performance is purely by what is the international ranking, what is the African ranking, because that's when now more people will get more slots. So you might find the team which will be sitting on that allocated slightly more to athletics, because you might find we have more people who are within the top ranking, and probably less to other sports, because we feel they are still fighting at a regional level, continental level, before now they start competitively looking for positions at the Commonwealth. So we are saying yes, inclusivity allows everybody to participate, but because we know it's also an expensive venture, we want those who have the best chance of good performance to get more numbers.
Well, over the weekend, when it comes to allocation, open allocation, I think cycling got 2 slots. They've confirmed 2 slots. We'll take a look at mountain bike and track, which I think we haven't reached at that. But overall, what's for example, the timelines that you're looking at, considering that Athletics Kenya have a headache? The day the World Championships come to a close in Oregon, the next day the Commonwealth Games begin, 24th of July, and the club games begin on the 25th of July. How are you going to work around, ensuring that probably what would be called a Tier B team, which is still the best that the country has had?
This will be a very interesting scenario. This is where you say it's both a blessing and a curse that we have such a great talent, because as a Commonwealth federation or association, we want the best athletes in athletics to represent us. But we also know there is a logistical challenge, or that they'll be having their World Championship. And we continue in discussion with the Athletics Kenya in terms of how they're going to select the final team, and whether, which would be our wish, the best athletes can be able to participate, especially the sprints. We believe the sprinters can be able to compete, and within a week they'll have recovered to compete in the Commonwealth. We understand that the marathoners and 10,000 meter runners might not be able to compete, and then within a week to be able to compete in other areas. So we are looking forward, and once athletics finalize their program, they'll be able to advise us on how we can be able to engage in terms of getting the best for both competitions, the World Championship, and we do not want them to give us the second tier. We want to give us the next best, and where possible, those who can still come and compete, especially sprint and field events. We are hoping that they can still give us the same team, which will be able to participate in World Championship, and fresh for competition, they come to the Commonwealth.
Para sport, para athletics, that's qualification. Basically looking at it, it's open qualification for all the para athletes. How are you working with the National Paralympic Committee?
Yes, we are working with the Kenya National Paralympic Committee because first they are experts in that particular area, and for particular sports we are also working with the federations which are involved, like the Kenya Cycling Federation normally directly engage with their para cyclists. We've started a lot of our para athletes have gotten opportunities to start training and to go for competitions to qualify. All of them are through their qualification. They have to go through the qualification path. They have to be able to qualify and participate. We are working with the Kenya National Paralympic to start preparing them so that when they go to participate, they are prepared. And secondly, also working with the other federations to support them. We would want as much as possible each federation to have all the athletes, whether different abled or abled athletes, to be able to participate, to be able to train as much as possible together, to be managed together, so that we can encourage the value of inclusivity as much as possible. So we are working with them, and we are working with federations to ensure that we have a good para sports team.
Well, after the Commonwealth Games, the next thing that we're going to have is the 2022 Africa Youth Games in Cairo. And just going through the list of sports that Kenyans that are going to be there: 3x3 basketball, swimming, archery, athletics, badminton, field hockey, which is played usually in the hockey, at times in hockey 5. There's the martial arts, rugby 7, table tennis, beach volleyball, weightlifting, wrestling, wushu, and you know, the one thing I'm trying to look for is break dancing. You know, they love that. The plan for the Africa Youth Games, put it into context.
Now that you mentioned about the break dancing, I should mention even esports. We are actually looking at whether we can get an opportunity to send an exhibition team to Commonwealth for esports. UK right now is very big in esports, and it will be a good opportunity for us to start sending Kenyans. And yes, when you look at the youth, the International Olympic Committee is encouraging what we call the youth sports: breakdancing, skating, mountain climbing. We are hoping that the host, Egypt, can be able to avail that opportunity. The teams which you've listed is based on the last time's participation of the African Youth Games in Algiers, but we're hoping because of the new needs, the new scenarios of sports in the world, we shall be able to get an incorporation of the youth sports. So those are the ones we are looking at. We'll be starting to train them in a youth camp this coming April, so that we can get the team prepared, even as we wait for August to reach, when we can be able to know, out of all the ones you've listed, who will be able to participate. But one of the things we'd like to emphasize in terms of the youth sports, that is where a lot of focus is. We are not saying even if they do not go to Egypt, that's the end. We are saying we are starting to train them. Our biggest target right now is the CAR 2026 Olympics. All our youngsters...
That's the Youth Olympics that was scheduled for this year, actually, but pushed back by 4 years.
Yes, and we understand that we've lost a generation because of that lack of participation. Now it means we have to start looking at the 12 to 14 years who will be matured by 2026 to be able to represent us. The longer target or objective is that we start looking at, can we start dominating in other sports? We can only dominate in other sports if we start training the youngsters now, give them time to mature, and then be able to expose them. So the youngsters who we are starting to train this year are the target for 2026 Dakar Olympics, and hopefully they can be able to participate in the LA and Brisbane Olympics, which will be 2028 and 2032.
The selection criteria for this 14 to 17-year-olds for Egypt 2022, how are you going to go around and ensure that actually the athletes who are there fall within that age bracket?
Very tricky area, and is a place where we have to work very, very closely with the Ministry of Education, very closely with the Kenya Secondary School Sports Association and Kenya Primary School Sports Association. We are lucky nowadays, as people get registered, there's a national system in terms of the age, and therefore any individual can easily check what is the age of this particular. So yes, the Youth Commission will be very, very strict in terms of the age. We must get the right age. But also, we also need to have a team of people, because when you are a youngster, you might have matured, or you might have potential to mature and become a good athlete. So this one, the federations, through their coaches, will have to look at who are the best possible candidates, who is just a bit of few months polishing, and then they become good. So at the start, it might not be the very top. But we believe that the team will be put in together, led by our Youth Commission, can be able to identify talent and look at the potential on the people who will be able to participate. And we have a long lead period where a lot of changes can be done. If others come up, then the Youth Commission will be happy to incorporate them, so that within the next 12 months, we can have a team which now we can say effectively this is the team we can start preparing. It doesn't stop anyone else coming and training, working a lot from outside the system. If they work very hard, they'll obviously be incorporated, because the policy will always remain the best Kenyan participates and represent the country.
Another, coming into these games, it's going to be interesting. For the last 2 years, we've not had sport, at competitive sport at school level, which would be the foundation for this. What's the plan going, because you have about 5 months to that competition?
The plan is to call them, all the youngsters, immediately. Right now we are very lucky that they have gone into a long period of holiday, and that's what we want to take advantage of. So as we speak, the Youth Commission is actually putting its final plans of the youth camp in place. Tomorrow the federations will look at what the plan is. When they agree the plan can roll out, then before the end of this month we are going to have the youth camp where we start training. We appreciate a lot of them have not competed, so we do not know in what state they are at, and that's where the youth camps become extremely important, so that we start putting them in situations where they can be able to play. We are also hoping that the Ministry of Education can reopen the schools championships in the next term. I know their calendar is tight, but we're hoping that with the calendar, then some of these youngsters, when they go back to schools, they can continue competing in the schools championships.
Well, it's going to be a tough 2 months, for the youngsters who are in sport, and if they are there and they're watching, then they would rather get back to fitness and get into their sport, find a way such that if they go back and they're told the competition is on, then they would know what to do. The other thing is, there was a camp that was in Lukenya 3 years back, 2.5 years back, and over the holidays. What were the learning lessons from the 20 or so federations that had representation in the camp?
One of the things is that we are very, very proud with the success of that camp. It might have been a one-off, but we can be able to see some of those who are participating in the camp right now in the national teams, the senior teams, and nothing could be better than that. We also realize that we need to pick, as a country, a lot of people are introduced to sports in Form 1 for very many different reasons. We need to move almost 5 years earlier than that. It means a lot of sports needs to start at primary school level. The youth camp helps us to start addressing that particular gap. We need to get as many youngsters as possible introduced to the technical elements of sport while they are still young enough to be able to learn it easily and to be able to perfect it. So by the time they go to the secondary schools, wherever they'll be going to, they'll be able to participate at a much advanced level. So it's a lesson which we must pick, which we must ensure we can share it with our other stakeholders, especially within the primary school level. If they can incorporate and strengthen their schools program, that will enable us to get. And the second thing is the technical coaches that we continue exposing, we continue giving opportunity to the youth coaches so they can be able to work with these youngsters before they move them then to the next level, which is probably the elite level. So it's a lot of exposure, a lot of opportunities for the youngsters, and a lot of training. We normally pick, and I give a typical example for a lot of people's experience. Everyone went to Form 1. Everyone was picked based on how good they were in football. No one had ever taught anyone how to play football. And therefore, when you talk of low skill level, it's simply because no one has taught us the skills. So the youth program, the youth camp, is to start to instill the skills required for each individual sport at a very, very early stage.
Actually, let me just come back to that. Elite performance, there is the institute. What's the whole system about ensuring that you've got a system of youth coaches?
We start at a small level where we work with our federations to just identify individuals who start and then start putting the program. We know when we talk of development, when we talk of youth program, that's where a lot of money is required. It's normally very easy to go and look for sponsorship for a top athlete because they can be able to be seen. They are competing and their visibility is very good. But when you go and tell a partner or a prospective sponsor that we need money to develop, it means we are literally digging the foundation. Nothing will be seen until after probably 5 years. And therefore, that's what we are hoping. Even as we go forward, we are hoping that some of the policies which will come into play within the government structure of funding is that there'll be a lot of money put for development, literally just development, where federations are given a certain amount every year to go pick youngsters and develop them. It means also we have to work very, very closely with the Kenya Academy of Sports, so that as they go throughout their programs, they are working in conjunction with the technical areas who are the federations to be able to identify them. We also hoping that even as you look at the constituency funds and all other funding across the country, a lot of it can be diverted towards sports at a young level, because youngsters have to be picked at their home areas. It will be very difficult for us to know of anyone who is training in the outskirts of the cities. But the system, if we put a system which can identify them at their local area, they can be able to be trained and exposed at national level, where we can be able to see them and pick them for further exposure.
Well, last week there was a communication that came from the Cabinet Secretary for Sport, Ambassador Dr. Amina Mohammed, and it is about Section 45 of the Income Tax Act. It's a law that actually came into effect on the 1st of January 2017. But right now, if anyone is funding sport, all they need to do is to give proof of that, and they will have some exemption from their taxes. It's going to be a tax deductible expense. What is the outlook, we know, with that communication coming in from the Cabinet Secretary?
Could it have come at a better time? We are struggling with financing. We have partners who are ready to give financing. They are in business, so they need a return of the investments. They need to see a value. But this is a very good motivation for them. First, we are, as an Olympic and Commonwealth family, we are very, very appreciative of the bold step the Cabinet Secretary has taken in terms of putting into effect that particular clause, which has been there since 2017 and unfortunately had not been effected. Now we are hoping that a lot of corporates out there can be able to come on board to support sports people at both that national level, federation level, or individual level, so that they can be able to get rebates on their expenses on that. What hopefully that will mean is that we have more money coming into sports. A lot of people say sports is an industry, it should be grow. We are hoping this will be one of the catalysts which can move us to that level.
All right. The Secretary General of the National Olympic Committee of Kenya, Francis Mutuku, thank you very much for your time this morning.
It's a pleasure.
I know you've got to leave because I know there is something else that's coming in the news later.
Yes.
I know what that has been lined up for you, and it is something that's going to support people around the sporting ecosystem. Conversations around the Commonwealth Games and also the commissions. And remember that KBC Channel 1 will be broadcasting the Commonwealth Games to you from the 25th of July to the 8th of August. And remember, just before that, another 10 days backwards, KBC will have broadcast the World Athletics Championships from Eugene, Oregon. It's going to be, a total shift of time zones, but a lot of entertainment that's going to run for about 25 days non-stop, sporting-wise, from us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's a pleasure, and thank you very much for your continued support of our sports.
All right. And now, remember that today, the Kenya Certificate of Secondary Examination, Secondary School Education Examination started, KCSE. And we had delegations from the government, the Cabinet Secretary, and other leaders in government who are all around the country, and they were looking at how the examination material was being handled as the students sat for their first papers today. And here is an outlook of how that went down this morning.
We had come to witness the opening of the container to mark the start of the KCSE across the entire country. So we have 483 containers like this one here, where all the exam materials will be distributed from. And as you have seen, the exam materials are safe, they are intact, and from this point they are escorted by police officers to the various examination centers where they will be administered this morning.
So hii ni KBC, si kama wengine. Hii ni government. Mine is just to confirm that this morning all the exams have been dispatched from the various containers throughout the 9 sub-counties to the various examination centers. At the moment, we have no hitches. The government has really put in place a lot of strategies to ensure that this exam is undertaken smoothly, without any hindrances. And that's why we have a standby chopper, in order to ensure that all those far-flung areas where we feel that there could be issues, that the exam is being flown on a daily basis. So that is what we want. Been briefed. We don't expect any issues of examination irregularities, and whoever will attempt, we shall deal with that person. So ours is to confirm that we are set, and we will want to ensure that through the month the exam is undertaken properly. We have deployed adequate security officers, and the exams will be properly guarded and secured. Thank you.
Directory been told about mobile phones. Sasa tunaanza na wewe. Nashukuru.
St. Michael Nyaro.
Thank you.
The Kata Education Center. Kata.
I'm Jaboni. My name is Michael Mwagimero, the County Commissioner Migori. I want to say that this morning the KCSE examination has taken off in Migori, so as we join the other candidates in the entire county. And in Migori County, I want to say that we have properly arranged and briefed the center managers. We have also done briefing to the principals, and we are ready even with the security agencies, so that we own up the process. We have a candidature of about 22,695,
in the 10 sub-counties of Migori, and among them we have 12 containers from where the examination has been kept, secured, and now we have dispatched it this morning. In terms of candidature, we have about 12,158 boys who are going to start the examination today, and we have 10,537 girls, making a total of 22,693. We want to assure them that in the total 299 centers are properly managed, and the police officers are already with us. We have briefed them, and we have asked them to be very serious with the security arrangement, so that the way the exam has been dispatched this morning will also come in safe back to the country. You can see that the multi-agency is, that silo, that used to be a silo mentality, kind of. We are now in a team, and in a team we achieve more.
Witnesses?
Field.
Iko sawa. Kidogo. Good to serve to the
we have dispatched the KCSE examination papers this morning successfully to all the centers. Every arrangement has been made. We have made adequate security arrangements. We have also followed all the protocols and the guidelines that have been provided by NEC. So far, so good. There's no any incident reported.
You just move closer.
Iko sawa. Kidogo.
Well, that is a wrap of how the examination, the KCSE examinations started around Nairobi County this morning. And remember that they will be sitting the papers. At the moment, the only students who are in schools are those who are in Form 4 and writing their examinations. And earlier today, Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha warned candidates and examiners against engaging in exam malpractices as the 2021 KCSE examinations kicked off this morning across the country. And speaking in Nyali, Mombasa, where he supervised the first day of the KCSE exam papers distribution and monitoring exercise, Professor Magoha said those found culpable will be dealt with in accordance to the law. Magoha at the same time assured of timely delivery of examination papers to all candidates across the country, saying that 10 helicopters have been put on standby to deliver the exam in remote areas. He said one helicopter was used this morning to deliver exam papers to a remote part of Kajiado County. Let us take a look at that report.
We have today started the Kenya National Secondary School Examinations, KCSE, nationwide. We have not had any serious incidents. We are dealing with over 850,000 students. I think basically our students were very prepared for this examination because most of them had completed the syllabus about 3 months ago. And having gone to about 500 of the schools over the last 6 months, I can attest to the fact that our children are ready and prepared and ready to go. So the children are not guilty. The guilty are the parents, and the more guilty are the teachers, some of whom are basically just traders and crooks, We dismantled one of their cartels in primary schools, having arrested several of them. We have noticed that they have formed another one. And this morning in Nairobi, we already had 2 students with cell phones. We are going to be very soft with them. We shall allow them to take the exams. But I want to once again just warn that any teacher who feels he or she is brave enough to open, particularly the second paper, we shall know where you have done it and we shall come for you, just like we did in Wajir and just like we did in Tanzania and other places. Otherwise, it's not enough to say this is a presidential legacy. This is a Kenyan legacy. From 2016 to 2022, delivering credible exams using the multi-agency team, particularly the 2 other ministries of Interior and Coordination of the National Government, and the Ministry of ICT, headed by my brother Joe Mucheru.
That is Education Cabinet Secretary, Professor George Magoha, who was in Mombasa, where he was speaking as he supervised the first day of the KCSE exam papers distribution and monitoring exercise. And our team in Mombasa will give us a full report on the activities around the country. We shall be taking a short break, and when we get back, let us have a conversation around table tennis. Ping pong, a sport that's even been used for diplomacy.
Are you an aspiring candidate in the upcoming general elections? Do you want your agenda and manifesto to reach your voters effectively? At KBC, we have the most comprehensive and credible online platform that has profiles of all prospective candidates. Log on to www.kbc.co.ke/2022 aspirants and let Kenyans know more about you, your past achievements, your manifesto, and your development agenda once you get elected to office. What's more, the website is easy to navigate. We will create your profile, post pictures and short videos with your campaign messages at affordable hosting fees. Log on to www.kbc.co.ke/2022 aspirants today and establish your brand authority as we lead towards the forthcoming general elections.
Mundos divididos por una sombra de traición.
Is it true that Mariela didn't marry me because she's in love with you all this time?
The man responsible for this crime will definitely be punished. You can be certain.
You know that I need you now more than ever. I need a woman who loves me. I want you to be that woman for me.
It was you! You killed her! You killed her! You're a murderer! It was you, Demian! Lying heart.
Fue sembrando el veneno y la ambición.
Welcome back to Sports Check on this Monday morning. It is the 14th day of March 2022. In the sporting world, we say it is Commonwealth Day, and a happy Commonwealth Day to you. My name is Daniel Wahome, and conversations around sport continue even as we keep up with the news that is happening all around the country, as we've got number one, the first day of the KCSE examinations that's happening all around the country. And also today happening in Nairobi, we've got the launch of the Environment and Land Users Committee by the Chief Justice Martha Koome. That's Brent Renjo is our reporter. The Interfaith Council this morning held a meeting and they gave directions on how places of worship will be accessed. Full capacity is accepted. Weddings and funerals, you may have, what you'd call going back to normalcy, but they've insisted, number one, on hand hygiene and equipment used. They have to take a look at factors of hygiene to do with that. Plus, also, they have said that at places of worship, they will expect that all those who attend services or prayers at the various places of worship will have their masks on. And they have said they encourage vaccination, but will not keep checking on the vaccination status. That is the report and the recommendations that were given by the chair of the Interfaith Council, Archbishop Anthony Muheria. Purity Museo is our reporter. And the Cabinet Secretary for the Interior, Dr. Fred Matiang'i, is going to be giving the 2021 NGOs sector report as we enter NGOs week. This is happening at the Kenyatta International Convention Center, and Timothy Kibdusu is our reporter at that event. So that's our news outlook that we have got going for this time. Well, next, a conversation we have to skip and bring this forward is a conversation about table tennis. In the previous interview, we mentioned that table tennis is one of the qualification sports for the Commonwealth Games. And the Kenya Table Tennis Association, they held their trials, national trials, the first one, which is going to be taking place every month. It's not that easy for the players who knew that some of their slots were already secured. It's going to be different. And to have that conversation, we're going to be having from my immediate left, Sejal Takar. She is Kenya's top lady player for quite some time, still going strong. Sejal, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And we've got Coach Kennedy Otieno. Thank you, Coach. It's a pleasure to have you again.
Pleasure. Thank you.
And one young man who's been, you had us mention about the Olympic Solidarity Scholarship. He has benefited from it. He's trained in Europe and also has had opportunities to play against the best all around the world. Brian Mutua, welcome.
Thank you.
And let me start with you, Coach, before I come to the athletes. Is this process that we saw happen over the past 3 days, where you had picked players from all over the country, tell us how it started from the grassroots before you now settled on those players who are competing for the 10 slots, 10 men and 10 women in the national table tennis setup.
Thank you so much, Wahome. Kenya Table Tennis has 8 branches, and each branch are like the former provinces. So you have Eastern, Western, Central, North Rift, South Rift, Nairobi, and Nyanza. So in each province, in each branch, you have to start from the branch level. They were selecting 2 players from each branch, and it started from the junior, below 17 years and below. 2 players for boys and girls, and then 2 players for senior men and senior women from each branch. And then they came nationally and they compete a round robin tournament that took 3 days, from Friday, Saturday until yesterday, Sunday. So at the end of yesterday, we got 10 players. And it doesn't mean that the 6 players who are remaining were just dropped down. So from the 10 players, they'll be playing monthly competitions. So the top 8 players in the first 8 will remain. But the last 2 players, number 9 and 10, will drop down into the second tier. And the second tier, between number 11 and 16, will play their own round robin. So the first 2 from number 11, between number 11 and 16, the first 2 will come back up to the first tier. So that will be competitive. And if you did not take part in the trials, you still have a chance, because Kenya Table Tennis is intending to do like 4 more tournaments nationally. So if you can take part in these tournaments and perform well above or below the already seeded players, you still have a chance to compete with the national team trials.
So you're talking about 4 more tournaments. Just give an outlook to this, so that outside of the 16 who are picked for this weekend, for last weekend's event, how then do you bring in those who are outside and keep it in numbers where you can pull them easily and they play competitively?
Yes, as I said, the first 10 are the top tier. The last 6 are the second tier. So these are the ones that are coming through tournaments will join the others, the second tier. If they perform well, they become top 2 in the second tier. They'll have to go up to the first tier, and then and then these competitions, depending on the international competition. If the international competition is on March or June or July, and in that month you're in the top 4 or top 5, that month you're the person who will represent the country. Then if the competitions is in August or September, then the very month we play round robin. So the first 5 or the first 6 will represent the national team.
Well, and I'll tell you, it was a weekend where there were upsets when it came to the table tennis setup in the country. And let me come to you, Sejal. You've played for the country at the highest level. You've represented. First, tell us about the current scene when it comes to the women's part of the sport in the country.
Thank you for having us. For me, yes, it's been a while since I last represented, which was in 2018 Commonwealth Games in Australia Gold Coast. And then COVID hit, the pandemic came through. It was difficult for everyone. Then once I realized that, okay, now this year's Commonwealth Games are coming up, I was deciding, what to do for myself. And got some guidance from the association. And I decided to give it one last shot before I officially retire. So I was part of the trials, and what I've seen with the women's team is definitely very encouraging. I'm really happy to see improvement in the game, both in the juniors and in the seniors, actually, with women and the girls. So there is good scope, and I think they've really done well for themselves.
Well, I'm just trying to look at some of the results from the outcome. When you are sweeping through these players, where do you see that the women who are currently playing need to get more active on, from your experiences playing at the Commonwealth Games, at the African level, the African Games? Where should we be?
So from what I've seen is, as I said, I see an improvement. There are a few things that I think the women can actually work on. Number one would be, table tennis is a fast game. So a lot of stamina, a lot of speed, skill, strength, and spirit, most of all, the fighting spirit that, once you're on the table, you just have to be there and you just want it badly, yeah? So sometimes I think if they can have a little bit of improvement in all these areas, for sure it'll up the game. I'm not saying it's not there, but just a little bit of guidance and I'm sure they'll be there. Yeah.
And let me come to you, Brian, and you are the beneficiary of an Olympic Solidarity Scholarship. Just tell us the process of how you got into it and what the experiences have been, having been, getting training and, not just on the game, but as an athlete through the IOC.
Okay, thank you for this opportunity. I got lucky and I managed to get the scholarship, and I went to Denmark for 1.5 months training, and I would say that I saw quite an improvement in my game, especially in terms of my techniques, because there are so many professional coaches out there. So I got to change a lot of my techniques and also got to play with so many different players. So I would say I improved a lot, and it helped me. And also when I came back, I got to train with some of my teammates, and I think I also helped them in one way or another. Yeah.
What were some of the things that you saw that working with the coaches in Denmark that helped you improve your game? You can use a hand movement to demonstrate how you play with the bat and that.
Okay, like normally when I was playing before I went to Denmark, I used to have a long stroke, especially with my backhand. I used to maybe remove my hand from below, like my upper body. So the first thing I went there, I was corrected, was just use my arm to play like a shorter stroke. So I used to remove my arm from, like just right in front of my stomach. So that was the first correction I had, like especially with my backhand. So I think in terms of techniques,
it looked more like a tennis one, like a long tennis.
Yeah, at first it was a longer stroke. So yeah, after I got trained and also corrected, it became a shorter stroke. Yeah.
Another one.
Also, my service reception. Normally, I used to chop like just a defensive return or most of the services. So the first thing I was told, you're not supposed to return all the services. You can just flick, even slow or just a fast one, but not all balls you should just return safely, because most of the opponents out there internationally, they're so good in attacking. So I was told to be the one to initiate attack most of the time. Yeah.
Actually, yes, Kennedy.
Yes.
You want to weigh in on that? That whole mindset of playing defensively vis-a-vis playing, being the one.
It's true. If you want to compete internationally as a professional in table tennis, you have to be the one to initiate the attack all the time, whether you're receiving or serving. So that is the last technique that he learned, and it has really improved his game in particular, as well as the game of the teammates and the national team that he's been training with. Apart from that, due to that, in the African games, in the African Championship that we took place in Yaoundé, Cameroon, the previous year, we managed to be position 9 for men out of 21 teams. It has never been that in the past. And for women, they were position 14 out of 26 in Africa. So I think this ranking is what, when the international table tennis look at it, they may give us a chance to participate or to take part in the Commonwealth Games, because we stand a bigger chance in the eastern region of Africa, where we belong.
So Giles, the Cameroon, the African Championship outcome, what have you seen, being in the top half? Continentally? Well, at times we just wait for that simple email from Ateka and say, oh, okay, where do we place this?
So I wasn't actually part of the African Championships because I had some prior commitments. But from what I saw, and as I said, after the comeback, the level and the game performance at what the time it was and what it is now is definitely on an improvement. You can see the result and the positioning of the women team. If it has gone up, then obviously it shows that there is improvement. The girls played well, they tried their best, and I think there's good scope in the future.
And competitively in Africa, you could take us through, I think 4 years back, Kenya hosted the top 16 championship. Kenya, I think Brian and Sejal, you were in that competition by virtue of Kenya being the host, and they brought in 15 of the best players in Africa. Tell us about how good those who are there are, considering that, for example, in the Commonwealth Games here, Nigeria and Egypt are expected to field players.
Yeah. So in Africa, of course, the top-notch players still come from Nigeria and Egypt, both in the men and the women category. So they're very hard to defeat. They play, I think, more regularly. They have got more, international coaching and experience as well. So we, of course, found it quite challenging, but I think we tried our best at that time. And, it was really good exposure for the country to have them, and to host was extremely important. It was a big help. A lot of players from Kenya had come together to watch and learn. And I think it was a very good initiative by the government to even, allow us and to host the games.
Brian, that's the time you were taking up the Olympic Solidarity Scholarship, and you were mobbing us. And there was a whole gang from JKU that was that had their own corner at Kasarani. What was it like playing with that kind of noise and the caliber of players you were facing at that point?
Okay, personally, I will say it was the first tournament that I played, like the biggest or a tournament I've played, the biggest at the highest level, because I got to play one of the best players in Africa, Kwadri Aruna, and to me I was just 19 years of age, and it was quite a privilege having to play a guy like that at that moment. And considering the fact that I was playing at home, it gave me a lot of confidence, and I think I performed well, considering I don't train like those guys, because those guys play this game professionally. They get to train every day. They have professional coaches. So I think I took it as more of a learning process, and I think it helped me a lot in later tournaments.
How did it change your perspective of facing high-level opponents, given that there was that round-robin phase before you got into the knockouts?
First, it increased my confidence in playing, because at first I was so nervous playing, and at that big stage, and also the crowd also there, and also I was nervous, and also I didn't have that confidence to play against most of the top players, because I went in most of my games as an underdog. Yeah, so I just had to fight and also give my best. Yeah.
Well, Kennedy, you've seen all that change.
Yes.
And how are you picking the lessons from the high-level competitions and sending them down to the grassroots so that there is a consistent, pattern that comes through the table tennis ranks?
During that Africa Top 16, most players turned up in Kasarani from the entire country, as well as the entire part of Eastern Africa, because that tournament really opened our eyes on how we train, how the nutrition we do, be on and off the table. Yes. How we prepare for tournaments or for matches. It really changed a lot. And after that, that's why Kenya has really risen to the ranks, because we saw the game in a different way. Maybe initially we were playing for leisure, but now we just wanted to compete like these other guys.
Okay, I'll be very specific. Let's start number one with the nutrition. How did that change?
You cannot just eat anything as an athlete. But initially we were just eating anything and going to play. Number two, you cannot just...
Okay, what is off the menu now?
What is off the menu is too much carbs. Too much carbs. Now we are interested in low fat, low carbs, ketos, and more of protein. Yeah, more of protein, because they build part of the endurance as muscles in your body.
Right. Number two, how you train.
Yes, how we train. Initially, we were going to training, but we did not have accurate and correct plan of what you're training, because we're just going to training. After 1 hour, we just say 0-0, we start the games. But now we sat down with some of the top players, and we asked them what they're doing. They say that we just plan to play 1 hour backhand block, backhand attack, on close to the table, away from the table, movement before you play games. Service, you can just learn service for 1 hour and you go home, and service reception as well. So this is what we are trying to incorporate in our practices every now and then.
What about the fitness regime?
Yeah, nowadays we do strength and conditioning as part of the national team. It's a must. If you're in the camp or if you're in the national team, you have to doing strength and conditioning training every now and then. But initially we never used to do that. It was just one person's initiative to make sure his or her health is fit. But nowadays it's incorporated.
Sejal, what Kennedy is talking about, when these little things started being introduced, how were they received? And because I know at times when some of these little things are introduced, athletes at times wonder, okay, what's going on? And it's only later that they say that was a good move. What was the experience?
I think every day is a learning curve. So if we've learned from the best, and they have noticed everything, they have seen it with their own eyes, it's coming in naturally and slowly. I see players now even making the effort of warming up before a match begins, which is very important.
You just used to get onto the
Yeah,
onto the mat and start playing?
No, they don't. That's what I'm saying. They warm up a little bit before, physically as well. They do a couple of stretches here and there. They go out for a small jog. They warm the bodies up before just going on the table. We could see that not everyone was doing that initially, and now from the recent trials that were held, I think most of the players now have that understanding of how important it is to warm up and to do your stretches before and after a match. So it's coming in gradually, but it's definitely into play.
Brian, let's talk about what was going on over the weekend. And, when there is the whole story that Brian is the one person who's going to sweep everyone, but he lost to, Peter the Orient at that. What was, first of all, the reaction at the hall at the Guan Institute? And for you, a total, refocus as you went into day 3 of action?
Okay, I think the match. Okay, when I got into the match, I think I started a bit slow, and he was confident, and I think he at the moment he played his level best, and because when I started the match, most of how I play, it wasn't working, so he went he took an advantage of that, and the results came. He won 3-1, and I think it wasn't quite a surprise, especially how he has been training and how he played in the tournament. So I think it was a difficult game, but the results wasn't so much a surprise to me. Yeah.
Okay, can you analyze Peter Muturi, please? Because you say how he has been training. Just give us an example of how your teammate now prepares for this major tournament.
Okay, he's a member of the Oswald Table Tennis Club. He trains at Oswald, and I think he usually trains Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday. And recently he has been training a lot and consistently with the national team coach. So I think that has been of great help to him, and I think it has improved his game a lot. Yeah.
Kennedy.
Yes.
Your whole assessment of the 10 who are there, and putting into perspective what Brian is talking about.
It's true about Peter. Initially, he used to have one system of play. So people had mastered his way of playing, that he only defends with backhand, he does not attack with forehand. But now, recently, he started attacking, and it looked like a surprise shot. So people were like, he can't attack the second one or the third one. And he was consistent. He was so consistent and confident with attacking with forehand. And that is what gave him the win over most people in that tournament. He finished third.
And Brian, what wasn't working for you? Because you said not anything you tried was not working.
I think I made a lot of mistakes with my backhand service reception, and also with my service reception. And I think that's where the difference was. Because normally, I usually have a lot of confidence with my backhand reception, the backhand flick, but when I got into the game, I had a lot of mistakes. I think that's what didn't work for me, and he took advantage of that, and he managed to get 2 sets. He went 2-1 ahead of me. So,
yes.
Yep.
And let me come to the women's game. And you played against Nafula Barasa, Becky Maisan, this Lens Sachita, Rufina Bahati. Take us through this women's team that you're playing against, because we know table tennis is not that wide sport. Yes. That everyone basically knows each other.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah. Take us through your teammates.
So we had a couple of really good women players. I saw, to just give you an example, Bahati, I have traveled with her in the past in one of the All African Games, and at that time I think she was younger, and now I see more maturity. I could see control, I could see focus in the game. So she actually is to me an upcoming player for sure. To that effect, there were some other players like Lisa who has a different technique of a game. So she uses an anti-spin bat, which gave trouble to many of us, myself included. But so she's got very good control, and she knows her game. And these are the few upcoming players that I see, who could be the future top players in the ladies team for sure.
Okay. I've heard you say anti-spin bat.
Yeah.
Just describe that.
So basically, it's a pimpled bat, and the effect of it, it's like a dead rubber. And in table tennis, it's allowed. It's not prohibited. And if the player is able to control that bat, it's very different, because very few players in Kenya have that kind of technique. So when you're training with a normal player, you'd be very good, but if you now face an anti-spin bat because of lack of playing with them regularly, you could have trouble. And what happens is, because of the rubber is different, it gives an opposite effect. So for example, if you're chopping the ball and the return comes, it's like a flat. So all the strokes are given an opposite effect to the bat.
So what you're simply saying is, this is the bat and this is a ball. The ball is spinning this way.
Yeah.
The effect is the spinning is put to an end.
Yes.
It's a break.
Yeah. It's a break.
Yes.
It's a break.
Yeah.
And so the ball comes back
with a different spin.
With a different spin.
With a different spin.
Yeah.
So if it was doing this, naturally, how should you respond? If it's spinning backwards.
So when you're chopping it and she returns it, it comes as a float. And when you serve a flat serve, it comes back as a chop. So there's total concentration required on the game. They even have the ability to flip the bat whilst playing. So you have to really concentrate, which side of the bat she's using, the red side or the black side, whichever side is anti-spin. So it requires, I think, double the attention and focus on the table, so which is quite,
Kennedy, this is where I want you to come in and talk about, investing in the right equipment. I know it's a big challenge in this country.
Sure.
Let's start with the bat, because Sejal has mentioned about that anti-spin bat. Okay. And, we are used to bats that, are as smooth as this paper.
Sure.
What's the right way to do it?
Right now, if you are competing as a profession, we just need to use the professional rackets, and these rackets are assembled. You buy the wood differently as well as the rubbers, and then you stick them together, they form a racket. And it also depends with your style of play. As she's saying, that girl has a defensive style of play with backhand while attacking with forehand. So it also depends with the person's style of play, so that we get them the right and correct equipment depending on how they play. Yes.
Now let's move on to the other one, the playing surface. What we play on normal floors here,
yes.
But when you get to the international level,
yes.
You play on a mat.
Yes.
How, what are the possibilities, of having the right playing surfaces coming?
Apparently, the Kenya Table Tennis has the playing area that was used in Kasarani. So if you make it to the national team, you have to get the pleasure of playing in that playing area and getting used to.
They were the first to play on it, actually.
Yes. It's a very good playing area, and it gives you good time for take on and take off before you move on the table.
Now, also, table tennis is played within an enclosed area.
Yes.
There is how much room you have away from the table. How do you, then get this? The players were here get used to playing within a restricted zone, because at times you can go for a schools competition and you find that it's almost open. I mean, there is no limit to how far out you can go.
It also depends with the room or the hall. It also depends on the number of tables that are in the hall. If there are few tables, you can create more room. If there are many tables, you create very little space. But you just have to talk to the players before you start the tournament, and just let them know that this is the amount of space that we're having. Please bear with us. We just have to play with this.
So yes, that is Kennedy Otieno. He is a member of the coaching team of the national table tennis team. Brian, there was also the boys and girls, who are playing. You are playing mostly in the afternoons. From your experiences out there, what kind of outreach are you doing to the young athletes in the country to see that they grow well in the sports?
Okay, I think one thing that we can do to some of these young players is to guide them through what they should do, and also get them in training, because normally most of the players in the country, they don't get the right training especially at a young age. Because some of the players, you find someone you might have trained for more than 5 years, but with the wrong technique. So the first thing is to maybe work on your technique, train them in good technique, train them in how to train in terms of also physical fitness. So I think that's what has been lacking in the past. After I went to Denmark, I saw most of the players, the young players, they were playing so good. You find 15 years boys and girls, but when you go to the table, it's just a tough match for you as a maybe 19 or 20 years old guy.
What are the fitness processes that you had to change, how you train? I have seen how a long distance athlete trains, I've seen how a sprinter trains. It's two different regimes. Yeah. But what about for you?
Okay, for table tennis, I think mostly we usually work on our footwork in terms of speed because it's a very fast game. So what I had to do was to increase my speed, doing more of physical, in terms of also gym. I normally go to gym, also because you need to have power in the core and also in the arm because of how to hit the ball. So I think at first I wasn't going to the gym regularly, so after I came from Denmark, I just needed to do that more regularly.
How do you do for footwork? We know boxers do a lot of running and
skipping
and skipping rope. How do you go through yours?
Okay, for footwork, table tennis we use like a ladder. So with the ladder you just have some different exercises you can do with the ladder. So I think that usually helps improve the person with speed, and also it gives you more muscles so that you can be also fast in terms of movement in the table.
Yeah. Well, Sejal, for you, you say this is one final gap that you want to work around. What's the process now for, with your experience, getting your coaching badges and beginning to impact downstream?
So I would say that the ball has already started rolling since the past year. My sister and myself have been trying to, and we've opened a small academy whereby we're teaching very, very young kids between the age of 5 and 9 how to do the basics of the sport, how to hold the bat correctly, because it all boils down to the core of the sport, how you educate the kids on holding the bat correctly, how the stance should be, how you should be, bending down. Of course, a lot of physical and mental help as well in a way that, and to make the game fun, because, kids of nowadays are so much into their phones and all, that it's very hard for them to come out. So to make the sport more a happy place, not just training at that age on a serious level, we're trying to balance it so that they can enjoy the sport and get the interest in it. So currently we have this small academy running, and also I have joined the national coach Fad Dime at the Oshwal complex as well. On weekends I go and help him to train the kids there as well.
Where is the academy based?
The one that I'm doing, it's at our Lohana Majan Mandal Hall. It's a community hall, small one. So so far we're just we're starting off with 10 to 8 kids. Because of the pandemic, we were just trying to be a bit careful. But as time flies, we'll see how it goes and make it into a bigger place where everyone would be, welcome to get the experience from us. Yeah.
Bat handling, you mentioned that. And anytime I watch table, there are people who handle their bats. There are those who handle it, 2 fingers here. There are those who handle it, and they'll hold it. They'll grip it this way, and they have it on the face. Others have got 2 fingers here. Just take us through that, the various ways of gripping that bat.
Well, the right way of actually holding a bat is the shake hand grip. How do you shake a hand with
like
a person?
This, yes.
And then the thumb goes on in the middle of the other side, and this finger goes on the other side, basically. So it's mainly the shake hand grip that we encourage, and that's the right way. We don't have players here who hold a pen hold grip like the international players and all. So for here, I think that's the shake hand grip, it correctly for the little kids. That's what we're teaching them. Yeah.
So that it grows into them. And what about transitioning from the hand to
pen hold?
To the pen hold.
What would you say to that? We don't have players. You know, the kids here, the ones that I'm teaching, especially between 5 and 9, you are teaching them how to hold the bat. So we're not really encouraging the pen hold, because I don't have the expertise to teach them the pen hold way. Sure. And not many players here actually use that. I think none. Very few. Maybe some Chinese who come, you know, and just play with us sometimes have that, you know, strategy and that skill. But in Kenya, I don't think none of us have that grip.
Sure. It all boils down on how you learned from the beginning. If your coach was holding with the shake hand, that's how you should play. Because very few players, in fact, non-competitive player in East Africa now is using pen hold. There used to be one Ugandan initially, like 10 years ago. He was called Wahaha. He was the only one who was using pen hold grip.
And let's now, from the boys and the girls who are there, what's the message that you would like to be sent back to the schools and the development system, such that there is a pathway? Knowing very well that we've got the Africa Youth Games this year, it's an opportunity for Kenya to have a table tennis team. You know, they prepare also for Dakar 2026, such that everyone knows that 3 years from now, 4 years from now, these are the kind of players will be there.
The system boils down the same as that we said from the trials. It's monthly. But now that when the schools are on, we'll do letters, and maybe they'll play after 2 months or after 3 months. But now when they are closed, they just do monthly competitions, so that we have fine players to be taken to Ethiopia for the African Youth Games.
Actually, Egypt. This time around, Ethiopia lost their hosting rights. Yes, so it's going to be Egypt around the 28th of August. That's when we shall have the games. And from the youth coaches, the Table Tennis Association has been running something known as Tucheze Table. What has been the community response, Kennedy?
It was rolled down in 2 parts of the country. In Nairobi, it was in Mathare, in conjunction with MISA, Mathare Youth Sports Association, and the other part of the country was in Kitale, where most of the junior players in the country and most of the women team have come from. So it's still going on well. Most of the juniors, like 90% of the juniors who qualified in the previous trials, they're from Kitale. That's why Kenya Table Tennis donated 2 tables after the qualifications to go to Kitale as part of appreciation for what the young coaches are doing in Kitale.
Yeah, and it's easy to mention the school St. Joseph's
and St. Monica's.
And St. Monica's, what it does. Brian, let me come to you and have a conversation about the competition in the men's game in Africa. A lot of activity. We know we're headed into another year next year when we are going to have the African Games. What's the scene like at the moment? You can start with East Africa and go to the continent.
Okay, I think in East Africa, I think Kenya has been performing well, but coming to the Africa at large, I think that's where the competition comes in, because most of the players who play in Egypt, Nigeria, most of them play this game professionally. So I will say there's still a big gap in the game style, and I think that's what we should work on improving and also reducing the gap, because it still was a big gap when we went to the past competitions in Cameroon and also in Tunisia. Yeah, so I think there's still a gap. Yeah.
Tell us about Cameroon, because it's the most recent one. What were your experiences from, and how much do you see of an improvement from your side, given that out of the 21 countries, Kenya was 9th?
Okay, comparing Cameroon to other previous tournaments, I think that was the tournament where we performed well as a country, and I think most of the players played their level best against the top countries also. We managed to play, we played against Egypt, against Ghana, and also South Africa, and I think we performed quite well considering how those guys play. But Egypt, we didn't win against Egypt, because I think Egypt, they have so many good players. Yeah.
And what about Ghana and South Africa? What was the outcome?
We managed to beat South Africa. We lost to Ghana 3-1, but I would say it was a close match. And I think we just we had some mistakes which I think we corrected in our match against South Africa, and I think that's what gave us the victory.
Well, and at the moment, if you were to be told right now, let's start getting ready for the Commonwealth Games, and you're told you have to compete, which teams would you look out for, even knowing that probably you wouldn't be at full luck? You know, at times you may not win every game, but they will give you the kind of competition you need. And some names, if you have them.
Obviously, the best players are from Nigeria and Egypt for Africa. For the other countries, I think Algeria have very young players. I don't recall their names as much, unfortunately, but so the way I see things happening now in the Commonwealth Games is a lot of youngsters are coming into play. People, you know, so the names that I can't relate to, and I think they are all playing professionally at that age, and they're given a lot of support from the school, the unis, and the government, and everyone else, the parents probably, and so it's on another level, and the way the game has come up with the youngsters is amazing, and I'm sure it's going to be tough. It's not going to be easy, but we'll just have to try our best and see, you know, where we fare.
And Brian, actually, she's mentioned about universities. At JKU and the universities have got their sports association. What's the situation at the moment with the sport at that level? We can see in rugby, we can see where the teams are, where they've reached. Hockey is coming up to become something different. Basketball, there's something also we see. What about table tennis?
In the universities, I think the competition is still stiff because most of the players who participated in these trials, most of them are in campus. So I think these are the players that we get to meet in each university competition. And I think so it's not the first time we're playing against these players. So the competition is still on, and the competition is still the same against these players.
Is it an exclusive club of players? You're in the top 10.
Not really, because it has really changed. It has really changed, apparently, because initially the people who were in top 10, some of them did not manage to be there around 4.
Around. Yeah. So how are you seeing it growing at universities? I know there's a lot of opportunity and facility, as much as they're basic. You could finish up on that and say how it's evolving.
Okay, I think the game in the universities is improving because of most of the players who are completing high school. They are coming to the universities, and their game is still quite good. So those are players who are bringing in more competition to also the other older players. Yeah.
All right. And Kennedy, now the tough part for you and for Sejal, now that you're part of the coaching team, is preparing for the Commonwealth Games. It's dependent 100% on how they play. So you may have as player coach Brian really would not want to miss out on that event on the Commonwealth Games again. What's the pathway from what you saw over the weekend before you hold the next trials in April and you promote and relegate?
The pathway is the player should continue practicing, because if you do not practice and you're in the top 10 now, come the end of next month you may not be there. So consistent practice will give you to elevate your game and maintain your position in the national team. So by the time you go to the African Games, we have the right players who have the right mantle to take these other people who are playing the African Games. Because it's not easy. It's not easy to part in the African Games.
So much focus on the singles game. What about the doubles game?
I think now after the trials, we'll have a little bit of time to even focus on the doubles, the mixed doubles, the team events. We have a lot of games, Commonwealth Games in table tennis, especially begin from day 1 till the last day. So it is quite taxing, and it requires a lot of endurance and willpower, perseverance to be able to sustain so many days of play at each category, you know, whether it's singles or doubles or mixed doubles. So I think right now, after the trials are over, I think we'll put a little bit of more focus and attention to playing this doubles as well, because coordination between players is and your partner, especially mixed. So I played mixed doubles with Brian, is also important. You know, you need to train that aspect as well to be able to then go there and compete comfortably, knowing your player well. Yeah, so I think right now within this few months we should be able to focus on that too.
Global competitions available for you in between now and July, Coach?
Apparently, no, I've not heard of anything.
And for you, Brian, the opportunities you'd like to hop on at any point?
Okay, I always have a dream, and is to play this game professionally, and I think I'll still work on that because that has always been my goal. And I think having a chance to go to training in Denmark opened my eyes on how this game is played and the level of play out there.
All right. Brian Mutua, he is a member of the national table tennis team. Thank you very much for being with us. And we've got Kennedy Tiano. He's a member of the coaching team at table tennis Kenya, and Sajal Takar. She's played for Kenya and she's coming to the twilight of her career, but is also part of the coaching team. Thank you very much. And like you say in your sport, to chase a table. Thank you very much. And also would like to apologize that we were not able to link up with the World Indoors team at Riyadh House due to a technical hitch and also some logistical matters that they had to deal with according to the playbook for the World Indoor Championships that will be taking place in Belgrade, Serbia from the 18th to the 20th of March. That is Friday, Saturday and Sunday. And the World Indoor Championships will be broadcast on KBC Channel 1. On behalf of the team that put together this bulletin and you of you for being with us for the past 2 hours, I want to say thank you very much. Coming up next, Kurunzi ya Mashinani with Zainab Said, and after that, our interview program in Swahili, Tamrini.